Welcome to another episode of The Dissection. The Mkhonto weSizwe party has confirmed that Dudu Zuma is facing disciplinary charges and that the MK party is also going to take measures to limit people's access to Jacob Zuma. It seems people have been just trying to say, we're going to thank Zuma, we're going to thank Zuma. They turn up there and then they turn up in front of Jacob Zuma and they want to turn that down. So if you haven't been following the story, Dudu Zuma shocked everyone when late at night on one particular day, she went on to Twitter X and she started insulting the MK Party Secretary General Floyd Shivambu, who had recently left the Economic Freedom Fighters. And she insulted him. She said he was useless. He was harmful to the MK Party. And that shocked everyone. It shocked everyone and it raised questions about the health of the party in and of itself. Why? It shocked and raised concerns because of her proximity to Jacob Zuma, the leader of the party. She is his daughter and by many accounts his favorite and most loyal daughter. Many people asked the question about whether these complaints about Floyd Shivambu were coming from her or she was the proxy voice to jumpstart a conversation, to jolt him up. Others asked the question about whether there was a deeper factional issue within the party. There have been some unverified stories that the party leader in parliament, Dr. John Hlophe, is not happy with Floyd Shivambu. In doing that, in that late night Twitter rant, Dudu Zuma put the party in a difficult position. She put Floyd Shivambu in a difficult position. She put the party secretary general in a difficult position because to not act at all would be to undermine and would undermine his authority. And to act would potentially undermine his relationship with the party leader, Jacob Zuma. At the same time, because of the stature of Dudu Zuma in proximity to her dad, and now she is occupying a role as a member of parliament, a role as a member of the Pan-African Parliament. So she has significant roles in her own name. That stature led everyone to look at this issue with more than the kind of attention that would typically come when there's a political tit for tat exchange of words that would happen. So this issue has now been taken to a disciplinary proceeding. I believe that Advocate Dalimpofu is the one who is in charge of disciplinary proceedings within the MK party. So everyone is in a difficult position because of those insults within the party, because South Africa is watching, the world is watching. There are questions about factionalism. There are questions about the party's SG, somebody who took a big risk leaving the EFF, coming to the MK party, and was still very far from local government elections early in 2025. Local government elections are later in 2026. So the party, any political party, needs to maintain its momentum, its credibility, its public perception a lot during 2025, and maybe they'll launch their campaigns for 2026 later in the year. Mr. Jacob Zuma acted fast, and he requested a full apology from his daughter. Initially, she apologized to everyone, and she did apologize within 24 hours. She apologized to everyone but Floyd. She said, "Ngiyaxolisa nonke," and then she looked at Floyd and she was like, and then she moved on, "Ngiyaxolisa over here, ngiyaxolisa over there, ngiyaxolisa over there," but not to Floyd. It was just so awkward. But obviously, she got feedback and she then issued a second apology, which included Floyd Shivambu specifically, because the original instruction was you need to apologize to everyone, including Floyd Shivambu. Now it has been confirmed that she's facing these disciplinary charges. The process is ongoing. The major question then people would have, is she going to be expelled from the party? And she had said, they can expel me, I don't care, this guy is useless. That's what she had said. So we got confirmation because they had this press briefing yesterday, and this was what was said at the press briefing.
So in the instance of Dudu Zuma Sambutla, I would like to clearly indicate that disciplinary processes, internal disciplinary processes are in progress. That is the response in respect of the question.
I know that leadership responsibility will always come with all sorts of accusations and all sorts of insults, sometimes of unfair judgments or gauge. And I took this responsibility fully aware that such will be part of the responsibilities that were given. There are so many things that are said, like, and we just watch, and of course, I also don't respond to things that are said on social media. There are so many obvious lies that are told about us, but we just leave it because lies will always expose themselves in terms of how we characterize these issues. So I personally don't get offended by anyone, and I don't hold any grudges against anyone. Like, MK is a very huge movement. It's attracting leaders from different formations. There are people whom we could have had differences with before. But when they come to Mkhonto weSizwe and then they need to be guided, we have to guide all of them objectively and fairly. That is what leadership responsibilities require of us, an obligation. And that is what, we must say this, that is what we learned from President Zuma. Some of us historically said all sorts of things about President Zuma, but he embraces us and even gives us very serious responsibilities with full confidence. So who would we be representing if we are leading Mkhonto weSizwe and then we hold grudges and then want to fight people?
Well, there it is. I think the decision to limit access to Jacob Zuma is a valid decision. It makes me worry a little bit about whether age is taking an effect on him. Sometimes as people get older, when people reach you and they access you, they can easily manipulate you. You're not as sharp as you used to be. You're not the kind of person that would be able to make full strategic decisions. You see this even when Robert Mugabe was getting older, they would limit access to him. One, I think, to protect him from media leaks about the state of his health, etc. The other, to prevent people taking advantage of maybe the fact that his faculties are not 100%. And as you get older, it happens to everyone. You're not going to be 100% in the way that you used to be. Although, by all my assessments, it looks as if Jacob Zuma is still paying attention. He's energized, is revitalized because of the MK thing. It's actually made him healthier, I think. And so I think that decision is the right move. The decision to also take Dudu Zuma to a disciplinary action is the right move. Let's be clear. The MK party has a constitution. Every member of that party signs up to its rules, signs up to the prescripts of that organization to go online, violate the rules, tarnish the reputation of the party, potentially bring the party into disrepute. These are the type of things which are definitely within the realm of misconduct. As to whether or not she should be expelled, that's a question that we should all consider, considering the other dynamics within the party. But it's the right move to take it to a disciplinary action. She must not be seen to be special. She must not be seen to be above the rules. That would give ammunition to the opponents of the party. The opponents of the MK party typically say it's a family thing, it's a family affair. You know, the other criticism is that it's a Zulu thing, and they need to be always managing those criticisms and not giving ammunition to any of those criticisms, because if they were to do so, that would give opponents evidence, say, look, this girl insulted the SG and then this and this and this, and nothing happened to her because her father is Jacob Zuma, leader of the party. So even if they don't expel her, the fact that they've done all of this other stuff, I think is perhaps good enough. We'll see how the thing ends up. Now, let's talk about the question about the performance of Floyd Shivambu. That question is going to linger. This is because there are already some yellow flags, not red flags, but yellow flags about the performance of the party. Number one, they failed to capture and capitalize on their leadership of opposition within parliament. There have been some moments, but there have not been enough moments, I think, for people to say, without a shadow of doubt, MK party is doing a good job. They're utilizing parliament well. They need to really sit down, devise a parliamentary strategy that will make them stand out beyond the EFF, beyond all of the other parties that are trying to also use that podium to stand out. This is how the Democratic Party actually grew in size. You know, in the early 90s, the DP before it was DA, used their seats in parliament to show an understanding of the processes, show that they're holding people accountable. Right now, Thembi Simelane, minister, is accused of corruption. The minister in the presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, is accused of corruption. There are reports on that. MK should have been doing more, I think, to bring some pain to the presidency, show that they're able to hold accountability and transparency in a different way. And we saw that there was some disgruntlement around the delivery of the speech, the State of the Nation rebuttal speech by Dr. Mandlakaisi John Hlophe. And these are questions that will linger and remain around. Now, as things stand also, the other yellow flag that exists is that there seem to be two centers of power in Mpumalanga. There are reports, of course, of the confrontations between Mzwane Lemani and Dr. Mandla Hlophe. All of these are things that have to be factored in. But the one that I think is going to look at Floyd more directly, or is going to be a yellow flag, flashing on the indicator there of the dashboard of the MK party vehicle, is the following. There's a recent poll which has come out showing that the ANC is currently at 32% from 40%, the Democratic Alliance at 25%, the MK party at 12%, and the EFF at 6%. So the EFF and MK numbers from this particular poll, which is done by the Social Research Foundation, are at the same level that they were with their September results. There are some questions I have and concerns I have about this poll, but let's first look at the poll. If the poll is accurate, right, let's give room for the poll to be accurate as well. If the poll is an accurate poll, then it would mean that the MK party is not performing better under the leadership of Floyd Shivambu, and that the issue raised by Dudu Zuma then has merit. Because for them to drop from 14 to 12 then means they've lost support, and they should be trying to get from 14 to 18. It may even mean they've lost support in KwaZulu-Natal. So they would obviously want to go from 14 to 18 to 20 to 25. That's the direction that you want to go as a political party. If you look at the recently concluded Germany elections, the party that everyone pays attention to, the Alternative for Democracy, or the Alternative for Germany, AfD, they grew from 10% to 20-something percent within one electoral cycle. That's really growth. That's really what you want to see. But if the poll is accurate, then the MK party is losing support. I would caution against taking the poll so seriously, because I think it's still very early. We're in February of 2025. 2029 is very far away. 2026 is still very far away. So that in and of itself would be one of the reasons I would be weary of this poll. The other one is that I would question where the EFF, ANC support and MK support has gone. Because if you look at the polling, it suggests that EFF drops from 10% to 6%. MK drops from 14 to 2. And then ANC drops from 40 to 32. Then where do these numbers go? That's 14%. Where is it? Is it supposed to be going to the Mbuyiseni Ndlozi coming soon political party? I would question, because I would assume that if the MK party was successful in damaging the momentum of the EFF, they would get some of that percent. And if the ANC is falling from 40 to 32, maybe some of that support goes to DA. That's how it goes from 23, because they're basing it on the same voter turnout, 58%, as we saw in the last election. So there are questions I have around those numbers in and of themselves. Right. So I think it's early. There's another issue that I think is worth mentioning about this particular polling company and the poll. The last sample, which was used by the Social Research Foundation, was very small. This one, their report does not give a methodology, doesn't give any analysis except just them commenting on the numbers. So we assume that they're using the last sample space as well. The last sample demographics of the respondents were not provided to the public. So the poll also is not peer-reviewed. Peer review is an important part of the academic and scientific process. A poll is a statistical instrument, so it needs to be reviewed by statisticians and people who are familiar with that particular type of information and data. There are only 3 companies which are doing polling in South Africa, and there's an issue of conflict of interest with this particular poll. This particular poll has a conflict of interest which arises from the fact that the Social Research Foundation, which published the poll, is using polling from a company known as Victory Research. Victory Research was founded by Johan van der Berg, who is the managing partner, and Gareth Van Onselen, who is the CEO. You can go check this information on their website. Johan has worked and is still working with the Democratic Alliance. Gareth Van Onselen used to work with Tony Leon and Helen Zille and left the Democratic Alliance in 2013 to form Victory Research. Then he also used his position in the media to write columns on politics in the Business Day, which were favorable to the Democratic Alliance. So the clients of Victory Research are the Democratic Alliance, and there are some Stellenbosch-owned media houses and businesses which are also clients of Victory Research. And these clients of Victory Research are also major donors to the Democratic Alliance. So can you see why the ANC goes down, DA goes up? And that becomes a question when you've got so many DA people within the organization doing the poll. The poll could be accurate. It could be accurate. But without peer review, without sharing of the data, it means that other scientists cannot duplicate this information. It also means that people cannot look at your working. You know, in maths, you have to show your sums, show your working, show your calculations so that we can see is the formula correct. And we need to be aware also that polling is part of the influence game. And that's why it's heavily scrutinized and regulated in other countries, because some undecided voters are influenced by media and these polls. They may go with the crowd because they have not taken time to study the policies, leaders of parties, and they may not have an understanding of what other people are saying, and they may not trust their own social media bubbles. So when they see X amount is going to this entity, X amount is going to that entity, Y amount is going to that entity, they may be influenced to go with that entity because people sometimes go with the crowd. We need polls to actually be done by university statistics department like they do in the USA. The reason behind that is that these polls are then published in academic journals as well as the media. But the publishing in the academic journals means that the methodology can be studied, can be peer reviewed. Without peer review, there's a real risk of abuse of the polling platforms and use of the media to amplify those outcomes for the aims of manufacturing consent. Book by Noam Chomsky and Edward S. Herman, Manufacturing Consent. Please read that book. Very important book to be aware of, because it speaks about how the media is used to influence people, to abuse them in terms of manipulating them to particular directions, thoughts around tax, thoughts around particular policies. The media is a powerful tool and it's used for this. The new propaganda is called public relations, and governments and political parties also do that. So watch out for manufactured consent, the deliberate curation of content by dominant media houses to create particular perceptions. So that poll could have its own issues. But if it's accurate, then Floyd Shivambu has a problem, a leadership problem, and then the criticisms raised by Dudu Zuma are valid. Back to Dudu Zuma. Do you think that she was right about Floyd Shivambu? Do you think that her comments came from, somewhere else? Were they endorsed by XYZ? Or was she speaking freely for herself and just giving her opinion? Do you think she'll be expelled from the political party? Do you also think that this is much ado about nothing, that people are making a mountain out of a molehill just because it was Dudu Zuma who said these things? Let's have a conversation in the comment section. Thanks so much to everyone who's watching. The book club is coming soon. I'm making an announcement on the book club very soon. We're starting in March. So get ready for the book club. Till the next one.